Have you ever felt like your brain is just wading through sludge? Like you're swimming against this tide of information overload and nothing's sticking?
Yeah, totally. Or maybe you look at kids today, your own maybe, or nieces, nephews.
And they just seem tired. Or they're having trouble focusing, or maybe even complaining their eyes hurt.
Exactly. If that rings any bells for you, well, you're definitely not alone. And you're in the right place today.
Because we are doing a deep dive into some really important sources. Think expert opinions, medical doctors, health researchers, people who spent years looking into exactly this stuff.
That's right. We're going to unpack what they've found about these, honestly, pretty surprising connections between sleep, vision, and a child's ability to focus.
Our mission here is basically to boil down all these expert insights into, useful ideas and maybe some surprising facts for you.
Yeah, hopefully empowering you to help the kids in your life, or hey, maybe even yourself, just feel better and thrive.
Okay, let's jump right in then. What's really at the heart of so many of these challenges kids seem to be facing? Moods, energy, that focus thing?
Well, based on everything we've looked at, the absolute bedrock, the foundation, it seems to be sleep.
Sleep, okay.
Yeah, the experts we're drawing from, they just keep hammering this home, how vital sleep is. And it's not just like physical rest. It's huge for mental health, emotional regulation, their whole development.
It's this fundamental piece that kind of gets pushed aside, doesn't it?
It really does. Even though the research going back decades, it's crystal clear. People who don't get enough good sleep, they get sick way more often. Sometimes like 2 or 3 times more.
Wow. That makes sense when you think about what sleep actually does. It's not just downtime.
Right. The sources describe it as this crucial work period for the body, detoxifying, recovering, repairing tissues.
So if a kid doesn't get enough of that, all that stuff, the toxins, inflammation, it builds up.
Exactly. And that buildup hits their mood, their health, and crucially, it makes it incredibly hard to focus during the day, especially for a kid whose brain is still developing so fast.
Okay, so what's really eye-opening, you were saying, is that parents might be making mistakes without even realizing it.
Yeah, often with the absolute best intentions. But the good news is, understanding these common pitfalls, well, it opens up simple ways to help kids get that deep, restorative rest they need.
Okay, let's hear them. What are some of these big sleep mistakes?
Well, one huge one is just misunderstanding how much sleep kids actually need. There's this myth floating around
that smart kids or active kids just need less.
Exactly. But the research says nope, often the opposite is true. Higher cognitive function might even need more sleep.
Huh. And we shouldn't compare their needs to ours, right? Like, if I feel okay on 6 hours.
Right. That's another big one. Assuming a child can manage on adult sleep amounts, their bodies and brains are doing intense growth work. They need significantly more sleep for all that development.
Okay, and you mentioned something that sounds really weird. Putting them to bed too late actually makes them wake up earlier.
It sounds totally backwards, I know. But yeah, the sources explain it disrupts their internal clock, their circadian rhythm.
So if they miss that natural sleep window,
their body kind of panics. It releases hormones like cortisol to keep them awake. It's almost like giving them a shot of espresso right when they should be winding down. They end up fighting their own biology.
Wow, okay. That's wild.
And another one, maybe simpler, is just not making sleep a big enough priority as a family.
Letting homework or activities push it later and later.
Yeah. Treating sleep like it's negotiable. The experts really stress you gotta cherish sleep, protect that early bedtime routine. It's essential for everyone's well-being, the whole family dynamic.
So how can you tell if a child is getting good sleep, not just being in bed? The sources break it down into phases, right?
They do, yeah. It's pretty helpful. First is initiation. Basically, how long does it take them to fall asleep once they're actually tired, yawning?
If they're tossing and turning for ages, that's a sign something's up.
Exactly. Then there's maintenance. And this one's interesting. When you're in deep REM sleep, your brain paralyzes your muscles.
So you don't act out your dreams.
Right. So if a child is moving a lot, tossing, turning, kicking, even grinding teeth, that's a strong signal they aren't getting into or staying in those really deep restorative sleep stages.
Okay. And the third phase? Arousal.
Yeah, basically how they wake up. It tells you a lot about sleep quality. Are they bouncing out of bed, refreshed?
Or are they sluggish, needing a bribe to get moving?
Or even worse, what one expert called mean wake-uppers. Cranky, irritable, tearful for no reason.
Right.
That, according to the sources, is a huge red flag. It means they're still really sleep deprived, still sleep hungry. They just didn't get enough quality rest.
This ties into something else the sources mentioned. the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Why is that balance so important?
Think of it like an on-off switch. Sympathetic is on fight or flight, good for emergencies, but nowadays it gets triggered by like stress, screens, just constant input.
And parasympathetic is the off switch.
Exactly. Rest, digest, recover. That's where the body repairs itself, digests properly, and crucially gets into deep sleep.
So if kids are always stimulated, screens, stress, schedules,
they get stuck in on mode. Their system can't shift down into that off parasympathetic state needed for the brain to recover and grow properly during sleep.
Okay, so what are the main things keeping kids stuck in that on mode, messing up their sleep?
The experts point to a few big ones, really common today. Overscheduling is one, homework, activities, just constant busyness, pushing bedtime later, adding stress.
And technology, I assume.
Oh, huge factor. That blue light from phones, tablets, computers, it directly suppresses melatonin.
A sleep hormone.
Right, so it makes it harder to fall asleep, takes longer, and the sleep you get might be lower quality. Simple stuff, too. Caffeine or too much sugar, especially late in the day. Obvious stimulants. And even just having bright lights on in the house too late in the evening, that also messes with melatonin.
Telling the brain it's still daytime.
Exactly. And then there's the circadian rhythm itself, that internal clock. It develops over time, right?
Yeah, the sources mention that. Why is understanding that important?
Well, it explains why consistency is so vital and why little kids need so much more sleep. That clock is sensitive to light, darkness, routines.
And it doesn't fully mature until around age 5.
Right. Before that, especially for babies and toddlers, they need way more sleep, maybe 12 to 17 hours for a newborn. Their brains are just developing at an incredible rate, and sleep is prime time for that wiring.
Okay, so sleep is foundational. Got it. But let's shift gears a bit. You mentioned vision problems earlier. How does that connect?
Yeah, this was a really fascinating part of the sources. The eyes, apparently, are like these sensitive indicators of overall health.
They show problems before other symptoms.
Sometimes, yeah. They can show subtle signs of issues in the body before anything else pops up, even on lab tests. They're constantly reacting to our environment and our internal state.
And what's particularly tough on kids' eyes today, I'm guessing?
Screens. No surprise there. Tablets, phones, computers. The sources explain they create this kind of fake 3D world on a flat, backlit 2D surface.
Which forces the eyes to work really hard.
Constantly. Straining to focus up close for long periods. That's intense work for the tiny muscles inside the eye, and the lens has to keep adjusting. Compare that to just looking out the window that's relaxing for the eyes.
And it's not just the focusing, right? It's how we look at screens.
Absolutely. The sources highlighted that people tend to stare and blink way less when they're looking at screens.
Like not blinking for a minute. That sounds bad.
It is. Blinking lubricates the eye and gives it a tiny reset break. That fixed, unblinking stare is really tough on eye health over time.
And that constant close-up work, the muscle strain.
Yeah.
What does that lead to long-term?
Well, that chronic tension can cause a kind of tunnel vision. Kids get so locked onto the center of the screen, they lose awareness of their peripheral vision.
And less peripheral vision, less outdoor play where you use it naturally.
Yeah.
That affects other skills.
Big time. Things like hand-eye coordination, gross motor skills. Those are crucial not just physically, but for brain development and mental health too.
Okay, here's the really surprising link though. Vision problems getting mistaken for learning disabilities, like ADHD.
This is a huge point from the sources. Think about it. If a kid struggles to focus their eyes on a book or the board, if it gives them headaches,
they'll seem distracted, restless, avoid reading.
Exactly. So a teacher or parent might think, okay, learning issue, maybe ADHD, but the root cause could actually be visual. Fix the vision problem and suddenly they can focus and learn.
Wow. And fixing it, the sources say it's not always just about getting glasses. There's a secret.
Yeah, this was mind-blowing. In many cases, the root cause of certain vision issues is actually stress. Physical, mental, emotional stress.
Stress affects vision.
When you're in that fight or flight sympathetic state, your body changes. Your peripheral vision might narrow, pupils dilate, eyes tense up. Clear, relaxed vision isn't the priority when your body thinks it's facing a threat.
So this challenges the idea that it's all genetics, or that glasses are the only answer.
Definitely. The sources argue glasses can sometimes be a crutch. They fix the symptom blurry vision, but not the underlying stress or habit.
So they might even prevent the eyes from naturally improving.
That's the argument. By making things artificially clear, the underlying tension remains. and the eye might adapt to the glasses rather than learning to relax and see clearly on its own.
This seems really relevant to the huge rise in nearsightedness myopia.
It is. The sources talk about pseudomyopia. That's like temporary stress-induced nearsightedness. The eye isn't physically changed yet, but tension makes distance vision blurry.
And if a kid gets glasses at that stage,
It might lock them into that pattern. The glasses fix the blurriness, but not the stress, potentially leading to worsening vision over time because the eyes never got the chance to relax and recover.
okay, so let's pull it all together. Sleep, screens, stress, vision, they're all tangled up, right?
Absolutely tangled. A negative cycle. Technology messes with sleep through blue light and just keeping kids wired late at night,
Which adds to stress, keeps them in that on mode.
preventing the deep, restorative sleep they need, and then the eye strain from screens adds more stress.
Making it even harder to relax and sleep well enough for their eyes and everything else to recover. It's a loop.
It really is a loop. But, and this is crucial, the hopeful message from all the sources is that these things are often fixable, or at least improvable.
There are actual strategies families can use.
Yes, practical things. For sleep, number one is making it a real priority. A consistent early bedtime that works with the child's clock, not against it.
And the bedroom environment. Calm, cool, dark, quiet.
And absolutely no screens in the bedroom. That's huge. Dimming lights in the house beforehand helps too. Lets that melatonin kick in naturally.
What about the routine itself?
Connection is key. The sources emphasize spending even just 20-30 minutes really present with your child. No phone distractions for you talking about their day, listening to worries.
That helps them feel safe and calm.
Exactly. Studies show it helps them fall asleep faster, stay asleep longer, wake up less. It's powerful.
And teaching them to calm themselves down. Self-regulation.
Super important. Starts with soothing babies, you know. For older kids, teach deep breathing, maybe use a worry box where they can write down anxieties and put them away for the night. Learning to manage those feelings.
Okay, and for vision, what are the strategies there?
It goes back to the root cause. Reducing overall stress, promoting relaxation, maybe even exploring if there are underlying emotional things contributing.
And if they wear glasses.
Consider working with a behavioral optometrist, someone who focuses on vision therapy, maybe exploring weaker prescriptions if vision improves by tackling the stress and habits.
So learning natural vision habits.
Yes. Things like shifting your gaze instead of staring. Getting lots of outdoor time is vital, lets the eyes relax on distant objects, uses peripheral vision. Good nutrition matters too, like leafy greens for eye nutrients, minimizing toxins.
And for kids, make it fun, right? Not like eye exercises.
Absolutely. Turn it into games, part of play, keep it engaging.
And finally, setting those tech boundaries seems critical for both sleep and vision.
Crucial. No tech zones, like the dinner table. And again, zero screens in the bedroom, especially in the hour or two before bed. Avoid the blue light. Avoid the stimulation.
The sources shared some stories about this actually working, right?
Yeah. Really powerful examples. There was a 10-year-old boy, kind of depressed, just gaming all day.
What happens?
Simply limiting screen time, getting him outside. His mood completely turned around. He became happy, engaged again.
Wow.
And a 14-year-old girl with severe anxiety, cutting way back on social media, spending time hiking in nature. Her anxiety almost completely resolved.
Just from that. Incredible.
And then there was a family, 3 young kids, felt like tech addiction was ruining their family life. Constant fighting.
What do?
A total screen ban for a month. Tough at first, apparently, but
It worked.
transforming their family. They spent way more time together outside, playing games, talking, laughing, rebuilt their relationships.
Those stories really hit home. And if people want to learn more,
The sources mention resources like platforms. Zonia was one that have short videos from experts on sleep, relaxation, stuff like that.
actionable stuff.
Yeah. And they hint that this foundation sleep, stress, environment leads into other topics. Maybe future deep dives on things like ADHD, autism, looking at root causes based on these expert insights.
So the big takeaway then,
Yeah.
sleep, vision, focus.
Yeah.
They're not separate issues.
Not at all. They're deeply connected and really impacted by modern life tech stress.
But the good news, the really hopeful part,
Is that change is possible. Small, consistent changes in habits and routines, they can make a huge positive difference for kids' well-being and for the whole family.
it really makes you think, doesn't it? If simple things like prioritizing sleep, less screen time, getting outside, if that can profoundly impact mental health, vision, focus,
What does that say about what we all fundamentally need? kids and adults living in this crazy, fast-paced, screen-filled world.
Definitely food for thought. We've covered a ton today, drawing from these sources. What really resonated with you? Have you seen these connections yourself?
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences on this. Please drop a comment below and share what you think.